It's the mid-2010s. Electric bikes are kind of a thing, but they are still pretty pricey. They feel a bit niche. Then something new pops up on my radar, something that really grabbed my attention. It was called the Geo Orbital Wheel. This thing promised to change everything. They said you could take your regular old bicycle, any standard bike you had sitting in your garage, and turn it into an electric bike. Not just any electric bike, but one that felt futuristic. And the best part? They claimed you could do it in under 60 seconds. No tools needed. Just swap out your front wheel. That was the big idea. It sounded incredible, right? Like something out of a science fiction movie. In fact, the company's founder, Michael Bertov, actually said the idea came to him while watching Tron: Legacy. He saw those light cycles with their empty wheel space and thought, hey, why can't we put all the electric bike stuff right inside the wheel? Motor, battery, all of it. A self-contained unit. It was a really smart concept. It looked cool too, with that spokeless design. It really did look like something from Tron. People were hyped about it. I mean, the idea of not having to buy a whole new, expensive e-bike was super appealing. You just get this one component, snap it on, and boom, electric assist. It felt like a truly accessible way to get into the e-bike world. You could keep your favorite bike frame, your comfy seat, your specific handlebars. Just get the power. I remember seeing the marketing. They had these videos showing someone swapping a wheel in literally seconds. It looked so easy, so clean. No messy wires, no big battery pack strapped to your frame. Everything was tucked away inside that slick, futuristic-looking wheel. It was a complete package, they said. The company went big with a Kickstarter campaign in 2016, and it blew up. Seriously, it went viral. They hit their funding goal in just 78 minutes. Can you believe that? And by the end, they pulled in over $1 million. Like $126 million from thousands of backers. That's a huge success. It was one of the biggest Kickstarter campaigns for a tech product at the time. Everyone was talking about it. TechCrunch, The Verge, Time Magazine even named it one of the top inventions of the year later on. CNN ran a feature. It seemed like Geo Orbital was everywhere. And why wouldn't it be? It was a simple, elegant solution to a growing problem. People wanted electric bikes for commuting, for fitness, for fun, but the price tag was a barrier. Geo Orbital seemed to smash that barrier down. I was definitely one of those people who saw it and thought, wow, this is it. This is the future. I was intrigued. I was thinking I might want to buy this. I pictured myself zipping around town, getting up hills without breaking a sweat, all on my existing bike. It was a compelling vision. They really sold the dream of easy, affordable electric biking. They even showed up on Shark Tank. That's a big deal, right? Getting that kind of national exposure. The founders went on there, showed off the wheel, did the 60-second install right there on TV. Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful himself, took a ride down the hallway. Barbara Corcoran tried it too, though she had a bit of a wobble, almost crashed, which was a little concerning, I guess, but they brushed it off. So, the promise was huge. Convert your bike in under a minute. No tools. Look like you're riding a Tron light cycle. Get electric power without the full e-bike price. It seemed like a winner. A total no-brainer. Now, let's get into what I thought and what happened to the company. I was genuinely excited by the concept. I mean, you don't have to buy a brand new e-bike. Just swap a component and now you'll have an e-bike. And yeah, when I saw the concept, it was very intriguing. I really did think I might want to buy one myself. The idea of upgrading my bike rather than replacing it felt smart, felt sustainable. But then years later, when I finally got my first actual e-bike, that's when I started to really understand why this product, the Geo Orbital Wheel, just didn't make it. It was like a light bulb went off, and suddenly all the hype faded away. First off, the price. It was ridiculously expensive. I mean, the early bird price on Kickstarter was around $650, which was still a chunk of change. But the retail price, they were aiming for $950 to almost $1,000. For just the front wheel, think about that. For nearly $1,000, you were getting a front wheel that made your bike electric. That's a lot of money to spend on a conversion when even back then, complete e-bikes were starting to come down in price. Not super cheap, but getting closer to that range. The sharks on Shark Tank actually pointed this out. Mark Cuban said the $950 price point was too high for the mass market. He was right. Then there was the range. It was not so great. They said you could get 12 to 20 miles on throttle only, or up to 30 to 50 miles with pedaling, depending on the model. On paper, that sounds okay for a short commute, but when you're actually riding an e-bike, especially if you're relying on that electric assist, you burn through that battery faster than you think. And those numbers were for ideal conditions. In the real world, with hills, wind, and stop-and-go traffic, that range would shrink fast. My first e-bike had way better range, and it was built from the ground up to be electric. And about the installation, they made it look so easy. Under 60 seconds, no tools required. That's what they said. But the reality was, once you install it, you probably don't want to go back to a normal bicycle. It's not like you're going to be swapping it out every day. It's a heavy wheel. We're talking 17 to 20 pounds. That's a lot of weight to add to the front of your bike. It changes the handling significantly. Your bike suddenly feels front heavy. It feels different to steer. And if you have rim brakes, fine. But what if you have disc brakes? Oh yeah, it wasn't compatible with disc brakes. So you'd have to remove your front disc brake caliper, which means you'd only have a rear brake. That's not safe. The foam-filled tire was another thing. No flats, they said, which is cool. But if something went wrong with that tire, or you needed a replacement, you couldn't just pop into any bike shop. You had to order it from Geo Orbital. That's a dependency I don't want. So I started seeing all these issues. The high cost, the limited range, the weird handling, the compatibility problems, the proprietary parts. It just didn't add up to the perfect solution they promised. It felt like a compromise, and a pricey one at that. And then the cracks really started to show. The big one was reliability. People started getting their wheels and they started having problems. A lot of problems with the battery. I saw reviews where people said the battery failed after a few months. Then the replacement battery failed too. One guy said his system broke down twice in 8 months. That's just not good enough for something you're spending almost $1,000 on, something you might be relying on for your daily commute. And when things broke, customer service was apparently a nightmare. Slow responses, weeks to hear back, having to resend emails multiple times, lengthy troubleshooting. When your product is failing and your customers can't get help, that's a death spiral for a company. Negative reviews started piling up. Word of mouth turned sour. We saw leadership changes. Key people started leaving the company in 2018 and 2019. Dakota Decker, a co-founder and the public face during the Kickstarter and Shark Tank, she left. That's a pretty clear sign that things aren't going well internally. Then came the silence. The social media accounts just stopped updating. No new post after late 2019, early 2020. The Facebook page went dark. The website started to degrade, then eventually went offline completely. It was like the company just faded away. By 2022, you couldn't buy a Geo Orbital Wheel anywhere. Not on Amazon, not at Best Buy, not on their own website. The product pages just said currently unavailable. They were gone. You might find one on eBay or Craigslist used, but with no manufacturer support, no warranty, and no source for replacement parts, that's a huge risk. So, in the end, what happened was that the market moved. Other e-bike manufacturers started making full e-bikes that were much cheaper, much more integrated, and actually came with a better range. The price gap between a retrofit wheel and a complete e-bike narrowed significantly. Suddenly, spending $1,000 on a front wheel that had reliability issues and made your bike handle weirdly just didn't make sense. Why not just buy a brand new e-bike that's much cheaper, well integrated, and actually comes with a better range? That's what I realized when I got my own e-bike. It was a complete package, designed to be electric from the ground up. It was balanced, the battery lasted longer, and the components worked together seamlessly. The Geo Orbital Wheel, for all its cleverness, couldn't compete with that. The dream of the 60-second conversion was cool, but the reality was a product that was too expensive, too heavy, too unreliable, and too limited in compatibility. It was a great idea on paper, but in practice, it just didn't hold up. The company's founder, Michael Bertov, has moved on to other things, working in innovation and entrepreneurship education. He's leveraging his experience, including the Geo Orbital story, which I guess is something. But for the Geo Orbital Wheel itself, it's just gone. What do you think? Did you ever consider buying a Geo Orbital Wheel? Have you tried one? Let me know in the comments below. And hey, if you found this story interesting, hit that subscribe button and I'll see you around.